Imagine that some of the most familiar things around us were not created because someone spent years carefully planning and calculating every detail. Sometimes great inventions are born from mistakes, carelessness, accidents, or even frustration. Today, we're going to talk about 10 inventions that were discovered completely by accident, but eventually changed the lives of millions of people. Some of them saved lives, others became part of our kitchens, offices, or childhood memories. And the most surprising part is that many inventors didn't even realize at first how important their discoveries would become. Let's start with a drink known all over the world. Fact number 10. Coca-Cola was originally a medicine. Today, Coca-Cola is one of the most recognizable drinks on the planet. People drink it in cinemas, restaurants, at parties, or simply at home. But not everyone knows that it was never originally created as just a regular soda. It was invented by John Pemberton, a pharmacist and a veteran of the American Civil War. He wanted to create a medicinal drink that would help people feel better. In other words, it was meant to be a pharmacy remedy, not a sweet drink for enjoyment. The most shocking detail is that early Coca-Cola really did contain cocaine. At that time, people had a very different attitude towards such substances, and they were sometimes used in medical products. Later, the formula was changed, but the idea of the drink remained. So one of the most famous brands in history began not with marketing, advertising, or beautiful bottles, but with an attempt to create medicine. Fact number 9. Potato chips were created because of a difficult customer. The story of potato chips sounds almost like a comedy scene. In 1853, Chef George Crumb was working at a restaurant in New York. One customer kept sending his fried potatoes back to the kitchen. First, they were too thick, then they were too soft, then they were not crispy enough. At some point, the chef had enough. He decided to teach the picky customer a lesson. He sliced the potatoes as thinly as possible, fried them until they were extremely crispy, and covered them with salt. The dish was supposed to be a kind of joke, but the opposite happened. The customer tasted the potatoes and loved them. That accidental attempt to annoy a customer turned into one of the most popular snacks in the world. Today, potato chips are sold in millions of bags, but it all started with an irritated chef and one very demanding guest. Fact number 8. Play-Doh was originally a wallpaper cleaner. Many children know Play-Doh as a soft modeling compound. They use it to make figures, animals, food, cars, almost anything they can imagine. But originally, this material was not meant for playing at all. In the early 20th century, it was used as a wallpaper cleaner. Back then, many homes were heated with coal, which caused soot and dirt to build up on walls and wallpaper. This sticky compound helped clean the surface. But over time, people started using coal less often for heating, and demand for the product began to disappear. It seemed like the product was no longer useful. However, later it found a completely new purpose. The material turned out to be perfect for children's modeling. So, something that was supposed to clean walls became a toy that generations of children grew up with. Fact number 7. Superglue was first considered useless. Superglue seems like the perfect invention. One drop, and objects are stuck together almost instantly. But the funny thing is that at first, it was rejected for the very reason that later made it famous. It was too sticky. Researcher Harry Coover was working at Kodak Laboratories, developing plastic lenses for gun sights. During the process, he came across a substance based on cyanoacrylate. It stuck to everything so strongly that the scientists decided it was inconvenient and useless. The substance was set aside. But years later, it was rediscovered, and people realized that its extreme stickiness was exactly what made it valuable. Today, superglue is used at home, in workshops, in manufacturing, and even in medicine. But once, it was just a too sticky mistake. Fact number 6. Velcro was inspired by an ordinary burdock burr. One day, Swiss engineer George de Mestral was walking with his dog after a hunting trip. He noticed that small burdock burrs kept sticking to the animal's fur. Most people would have simply pulled them off in irritation and forgotten about them, but the engineer decided to take a closer look. Under a microscope, he saw that the burrs attached to fur with tiny hooks. That gave him an idea. What if he could create a material that worked in the same way? That was how Velcro was born, a simple but brilliant system of hooks and loops. It is used on clothing, shoes, bags, sports equipment, medical devices, and even in space technology. Sometimes nature has already invented the solution. You just have to look closely. Fact number 5. Post-it notes came from a failed glue. Post-it notes are those small pieces of paper you can stick, remove, and stick again. They are found in offices, schools, books, notebooks, and on refrigerators. But it all began with a failure. Chemist Spencer Silver was working at 3M and trying to create a strong adhesive. Instead, he ended up with a weak glue. It could hold paper to a surface, but it could also be removed easily without leaving marks. At first glance, it was a failure. The glue did not do what it was supposed to do. But later, his colleague Art Fry realized that this material would be perfect for bookmarks. They would not fall out of a book, but they would not damage the pages either. So a weak glue that first seemed useless became the foundation for one of the most popular office products in the world. Fact number 4. The ice cream cone appeared because there were no plates left. In the early 20th century, ice cream was usually served in dishes. But at the 1904 World's Fair, ice cream sellers ran into an unexpected problem. Their ice cream was selling so well that they began running out of plates. Next to them was a waffle seller. His product, on the other hand, was not selling very well. So the two vendors decided to combine their ideas. They rolled a waffle into a cone shape and placed ice cream inside it. The solution was simple but brilliant. No plate was needed, no spoon was needed, and the cone itself could be eaten. Today, it is hard to imagine ice cream without a waffle cone, but it appeared not because of years of experiments, but because of a simple shortage of dishes. Fact number 3. The microwave oven was invented after a chocolate bar melted. In 1945, engineer Percy Spencer was working with microwave emitters used in radar equipment. While working, he noticed something strange. The chocolate bar in his pocket had started to melt. Many people would have simply been annoyed about their messy clothes, but Spencer realized that the radiation was the reason. He began experimenting with other foods and discovered that microwaves could heat food very quickly. That accidental moment led to the idea of the microwave oven. Today, it can be found in almost every kitchen. We use it to reheat lunch, make popcorn, defrost food, and save time every day. And it all began with a chocolate bar melting in someone's pocket. Fact number 2. X-rays were discovered because of a strange glow. In 1895, Wilhelm Röntgen was experimenting with cathode rays. During one experiment, he noticed that a fluorescent screen in the room had started to glow, even though there was a solid object between the screen and the source of the rays. This could not be explained by ordinary light. It meant that there was some unknown type of ray capable of passing through solid objects. That was how X-rays were discovered. This discovery changed medicine forever. For the first time, doctors were able to look inside the human body without surgery. Today, X-rays are used to diagnose broken bones, lung problems, dental issues, and many other conditions. And it all started because a scientist noticed a mysterious glow. Fact number 1. Penicillin appeared because of mold in a petri dish. And finally, one of the most important accidental discoveries in history. Alexander Fleming was studying Staphylococcus bacteria. He left petri dishes with bacteria in his laboratory and went on vacation. When he returned, he noticed that mold had grown in one of the dishes. But the most interesting part was not the mold itself. It was the fact that the bacteria around it had stopped growing. Fleming realized that the mold was producing a substance that killed or suppressed bacteria. That substance became known as penicillin, the first antibiotic. This discovery saved an enormous number of lives. Before antibiotics, even a simple infection could become deadly. After the discovery of penicillin, medicine changed forever. The irony is that one of the greatest medical discoveries in history began with ordinary mold growing in a laboratory dish.